All right. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatai Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gautase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We welcome everyone for today's discussion. Sorry for the delay. Once again, we didn't have electricity today. Somehow at the last minute went off around 11:30, and then we got the message electricity is out until 6 p.m. So I had to run around to find an alternative space. So all right. So we are on the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, titled as Attaining the Supreme. Let me have the slide deck for all of you. Yeah. And so here, yes. So today is going to be the 18th session of our discussion on the Bhagavad Gita, and we intend to cover verse number 15 to verse number 28. Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme. So the acronym, as we have discussed in the previous session also for this chapter, which is a small chapter, 28 verse, the acronym is DEAD, dead. So this chapter begins with doubts of Arjuna, where he asks around 8 questions: Adhibhut, Adhyatma, Adhyagya, Karma, etc. He asks those questions, and then which Lord Shri Krishna answers in 3rd and the 4th verse. And then his last question was Prayena Kale. How can we know you, Krishna, remember you, Krishna, or attain you at the end of our life? And that is what the whole chapter dedicated to. So that was a discussion in the second section, end of life, 5th verse to 8th verse. Antakale Jamameva Smaran Muktva Kalevaram. We have already discussed that. I'll not go so much details of it. So whoever quits the body while remembering me, he attains me. That's what Krishna says. And then how do we remember Krishna? Because that's what Krishna says in this chapter. Tasma sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhyacha mayi arpita mano buddhe mame vishasi samshaya. Perform all your duties while remembering me. So how do we cultivate the practice of remembrance? So Lord Shri Krishna begins to speak from the 9th verse onwards. That's the third section. 9th to 22nd verse, attaining the Supreme. So 9th to the 13th verse, come back. 9th to the 13th verse, Lord Shri Krishna speaks about Sat Chakra Yoga, which means Ashtanga Yoga Marg. And then on the 14th verse, Lord Shri Krishna speaks about the Shuddha Bhakti. Ananyah Chetah Satatam Yomam Smaratihi Nitsyah Tasyaham Sulabha Pata Nitya Yuktasya Yogina Tasyaham Sulabha. Sulabha means becomes very easy. So Tasya Aham Sulabha Partha. So one who remembers me, Ananya Chetaha, Satatam. Ananya means without a cause. Just like somebody loves somebody, or let's say talk about a young man and a girl, when they fall in love with each other, it's just the remembrance of other person does not go away from the mind. So like the Ananya Chetaha Satatam, Yoman Smrati Nasya, and who wants to remember me always, such a person, for him, Tasya Aham, I, Sulabha Path, I become very easy to attain. Like that, Lord Shri Krishna speaks in the 14th verse. So here is my question for all of you. And the question is, I mean, somebody can say, are you kidding me? What are you doing, Lord Shri Krishna? We are on the battlefield. If you want me to, or you want Arjuna to follow bhakti, why are you wasting time talking about Ashtanga Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga? Why Krishna had to speak 9 to the 13th verse and then say, keep it aside. Follow what I say in the 14th verse. I mean, think about it. You know, you're on a very critical junction of your life. The war has been declared. And Lord Shri Krishna is peacefully spending time talking to Arjuna, Satya Chakra Yoga. And just like in 6th chapter, he spoke about Ashtanga Yoga. Then he said, no, it's very difficult to follow. Why Krishna is doing like this? What is your thought process? Okay, let me ask this question. How many of you would agree that Krishna, why are you making it complicated? There is no time. There's no time. Just tell the thing that you want. And that's what Arjuna was saying in the beginning, in the first section of the first 6 chapters. We saw Arjuna saying, my dear Lord, tell me one thing. You're speaking equivocally. Why didn't you tell me one thing that I'm supposed to do? Tell me that one thing. Why Krishna is speaking of something and then he backtracks. Then he says, no, do this. As if they're sitting peacefully. They had a nice lunch and they have nothing much to do in the evening. Those are sitting and talking. Okay, Arjuna, do this, do that. Okay, you can't do this, do that then. So, what is your thought process? Hare Krishna. I see some of you in Samadhi already. Or maybe you're traveling. That's the reason you're in Samadhi. Rakesh Prabhu, doing fine?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Sorry,
No,
Prabhu.
looks like you are traveling. That's okay. That's okay. I didn't want to call your name, but it just so happened I just made it a full screen and I saw all of you. And I saw you so nicely absorbed. Maybe hearing, or maybe a short, quick nap. No problem. Okay, so who we have? Mother Rati Manjari. Yes, go ahead. What would you like to say on this?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Uh, Prabhuji, Arjuna was an instrument for the message of Bhagavad Gita. And also, the yoga ladder has all these steps. He's giving him the view that you can achieve through these steps, or you can directly do devotion and attain me. So he's explaining to him the pros and cons and giving him the independence, the will that he has free will to
Do you agree
exercise.
the time was too short for such a discussion?
Uh, yes, but he was an elevated soul. Arjuna was a very elevated soul.
Yeah, so you didn't have to even had to hear for 45 minutes. Arjuna could have finished the conversation, or Krishna could have finished the conversation in 1 minute. So, as the first point which you rightly said, Arjuna was an instrument. It was for us, for our benefit. Okay, good. I'm looking for a little more specific. You're correct. You're on the right direction. Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Mother Kishori Rani, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, actually it is to show, more than Arjuna, to show us
Correct.
that the all the other processes of yoga that Krishna explains is quite difficult to follow, and finally that bhakti is the topmost yoga which
Correct. Somehow your internet got stuck, Mother, but I got the point. That's what Mother Rati Manjari was saying. So, is there anyone who has a different answer than this? Which is totally correct, no doubt about it. Venu Vadan Prabhuji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam.
Yes.
Prabhu, just this is 18 chapters see the Bhagavad Gita for us, but here in the battlefield, actual battlefield, it is very, very less. Whatever conversation between the Arjuna and the Krishna is very less. And moreover, so if you are making the difference, because if you are giving small line and big line, then you will differentiate which is the easiest one. So he has explained the process of this one, as Mataji explained this yoga ladder and the bhakti yoga, this direct just like lift. So my understanding is like this.
Sure. Thank you. So correct. That's the correct answer. That's what Mother Rati Manjari was also indicating too. So what all you said was totally correct. And is in the same line. What I was thinking in this direction was, I was thinking more on the teaching methodology. Krishna is the best of the teacher, and how he's conveying the message to Arjuna. He's just not telling Arjuna this is what it is. He's providing him a comparative study. He's given option A, given option B, given option C, given option D. And talks about what are the pitfalls with A, B, C, and thus concludes D is the best. And then you ask the student, what is the best? D is the best. But the moment you say D is this, D is the best, the student may say, oh, what about A? So what about B? What about C? And if in case he doesn't ask, then he will think, oh, my teacher is, he's only thinks about D, but he doesn't know much about ABC. So what Krishna is doing here is he's presenting all the ideas as yoga ladder, as Mother Rati Manjari was rightly indicating. It's not something that was introduced for the first time, so it was a subject matter which is there already existing. And Krishna is speaking so that to highlight what among them is the best. So like that, Krishna have done a comparative study, and then 8.14, he draws a conclusion. It's very easy, sulabha, to attain me. Then after explaining it's very easy to attain me, now the obvious question comes, what's the problem with this world? Why should we go back to you? Can't we stay in this world? What's the big deal? And then from 15th verse, Lord Shri Krishna speaks about material world versus spiritual world. If I'm correct, we're supposed to begin our discussion from here only, right? Everyone? This is where our discussion begins for today. So comparing material and spiritual world, 17 to 22nd. So let's take a look at the 15th and 16th verse, and then we'll come back again. So 8.15. Just can anyone help me remember? Have we discussed 15, 16 or no?
Prabhuji, we have discussed up to 20.
We have discussed up to 20 like that.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to
20th.
start 8.20.
Okay,
21.
perfect. Then I'll just quickly sum this up. Oh, I believe in this discussion I was taking, if we need a time model. Huh? Oh, Karma Mishra Bhakti. Okay, that we haven't discussed here. Did we discuss about the time model here? I guess time model is what I was supposed to discuss. Okay. So 15th verse, I'll just quickly give a synopsis. In the 15th verse, we have already discussed, and okay. So Krishna says, the one mamupetya punarjanma, one who attains me, there is no rebirth to dukhalayam ashashvatam. This material world is dukha and ashashvatam. Napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. The great soul attains me, perfection. 16th shloka, so Arjuna wonders, oh really, my dear Lord, there is no good place in this material. Krishna says, no, Brahma bhavana loka punavartan Arjuna. Top to bottom, everything is a place of rebirth. And then 17th verse, Lord Shri Krishna gives a time scale. Sahasra yuga pariyantam aharyat brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam dehoratra vidu janaha. Here, Lord Shri Krishna speaks about the duration of Brahma's one day and one night, like that. And text number 18, Krishna says, Avyaktad vyaktayah sarva pravanti haragame ratri agame parilyante tatreva avyakta smagnake. At the beginning of Brahma's day, so Lord Shri Krishna talks about you can say a destruction here. At the beginning of the day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. So, creation and destruction. So, there are two kinds of creation that happen in this material world. One is called as sarga, and second is called as visarga. So, sarga is a creation which is a primary creation that happens even before the birth of Brahmaji. But after the birth of Brahmaji, what happens next is visarga. So does visarga happens once in the life of Brahma, or does it happen every day? How many say visarga, the secondary creation, happens every day in the life of Brahma? Raise your hands. Or if you think it happens only once. So yes, visarga happens every day. So in one of the verses we were reading today morning, Srimad Bhagavatam, the regulative principle for Brahma is to recreate every morning. That is his sadhana. Those of us who have any attraction, even for Brahma Loka for that reason, for us, how fortunate we are. Every morning we get up. We take the darshan of beautiful deities. We don't have to perform any tapasya to take darshan. Brahmaji had to perform 1,000 years of tapasya to take darshan of the Lord. We take darshan of the Lord, and then we sing and dance. And then we sing and dance again for Guru Puja. And then we hear nice nectar in Srimad Bhagavatam. And good, most of the time we are not the speakers, so we don't have any anxiety of giving class. We can peacefully sit and hear. And then we get the nice Krishna Prasad. And just the life goes on. And you think you are in anxiety? Poor Brahma. The moment he gets up, everything is flooded around him. His whole foreheads are rotating at 360 degrees. What is happening? He doesn't know what is happening. Everything is flooded. Then he hears the word tapa. And then he
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhu, your screen is frozen, Prabhu. Not able to hear you.
Yeah, not able to hear. My same here.
Yeah. Actually, I think Prabhuji has got logged out. So we'll just wait for Prabhuji to re-log in back. I can't see Prabhuji in the participants list.
Okay, Mataji.
We can pause recording till the time. Recording is still going on, Mataji.
Yeah, but Prabhuji has not made any of us co-host because he's in a different location, just started off. So that's the reason you're not able to do anything. Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like Beena Mataji is the host now.
Yeah, the auto-assigned host aisa ho gaya.
Yeah.
No, I can hardly handle things. Mataji can do it.
See, when Prabhu joins back, you can make him the host and then we'll take it forward.
No, or maybe Beena Mataji can make you the co-host, Mataji, and if that helps.
Yeah.
But how do I do it? I'm not aware. You guide me, I will do it.
Okay. Mataji, I'm raising my hand. Okay. So just right click on my name and say make co-host or make host, whatever. Make me the host. Then I'll make Prabhu the host when he joins.
But how do I do it, Mata? I just have to click your name, which is coming on the screen?
Yes. Click on my name. Then you will find, then right click on that. Then you'll see, you will get the option make host.
So Madan Sundar Prabhu joined.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can make Madan Sundar Prabhu the host directly now. Yeah.
Okay. I'm the host. That's okay. I have regained my rights. Don't worry.
Hare Krishna.
All right. What to do? Injawadi has got some problem. Now internet went off. I'm in a different society altogether. What we were talking about, I just lost a train of thoughts.
Oh, you were
Sarga
talking
and
about Brahma.
Visarga.
Oh yeah. We were talking about Brahmas. People think, oh, we are suffering. You think, why I have to do so much austerity of chanting 16 hours every day? Hear the same Bhagavatam class, eat same Krishna Prasadam, dance on the same Guru Puja Arti. See, Brahma has to recreate every morning. And every morning when he wakes up, he has a loss of memory. He has to perform tapasya. He has to recreate. And what he has to recreate? He creates 4 Kumaras, then he creates Rudra. Rudra becomes very upset with him. And then he gets Manasik Putra and whatnot. And then he creates, the Pishachas. And when they're born, they're so hungry. They look for food. They don't find any food because food has not been born. So they think, oh, our father looks so delicious, chubby, sweet Brahmana. Let's eat him. So they run behind Brahma. And Brahma is holding his dhoti running around. And he's saying, Krishna, Krishna, save me. What is this? You asked me to create and I created these rascals. These rascals want to eat their own father. So somehow thinks that, okay. Then he creates other more species. And then some lusty species are born. And they look at Brahma. Oh, Brahma looks so exciting, so sweet. They chase after Brahma. This is all third kind of talks about it. So now you say you are having tough time in your bhakti life. I guess you should not have a reason. Compare yourself with Brahmaji's life. Now, this is why Brahmaji says, Padam Padam Yata Vipadam Tesham. That's the life in this material world, always troublesome. So that's the situation in Brahmaji's life. So text number 18 was that. 19th is a very famous shloka. Bhutagrama sa evayam bhutva praliyate. Again and again, time and again, you're born, dies, ratri agame vashapartha rohati ragame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arise, all of your enemies come into being. With the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. And then text number 20. Parastasmastu bhavanyu avyakto vyakta sanatanaha yahasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyassu na vinashyati. After giving a proper introduction to the material world and to the topmost abode and the life of that person who is on the topmost abode, Brahmaji, text number 20, Krishna speaks about spiritual world. Paras tasmat, paras transcendental, tasmat to that, to bhava anyo. So there is another nature which is transcendental. Avyakto vyaktahat. This is something unmanifest. Avyakta vyakta is just like najayate mriyate va kadachin. Never takes birth, never dies. Something like that. Yahassa sarveshu bhuteshu nash asu na vinashyati. It is never annihilated. Never being annihilated, never is annihilated, which means spiritual world is eternal. This is, if you study close Sanskrit wise, and it is quite close to Najayate Mriyate Va Kadachin Naya Bhutva Bhavitva Na Bhuyasa. Second chapter, verse number 20. Translation: Yet there is another material unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Purport, a very short purport. Somebody like to read the purport? Go ahead, or raise your hand. Shashwat Prabhu, go ahead and read it.
Hare Krishna, purport. Krishna's superior spiritual energy is transcendental and eternal. It is beyond all the changes of material nature, which is manifested and annihilated during the days and night of Brahma. Krishna's superior energy is completely opposite in quality to material nature. Superior and inferior nature are explained in the 7th chapter. Hare Krishna.
Text number 21. Avyakto akshara iti uktas tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Why don't you take this as a homework? We are on the 8th chapter, and this is a homework for you to give me an answer next week when we meet. How many times until this verse Lord Shri Krishna has spoken about, if you attain my abode, you never come back to this world? Once again, Krishna is saying here, Yam prapya, prapya means prapt, attain, na nivartanti, Navartante, coming back again. Tadhama paramama. So when you attain my abode, Dhama, which is paramam, which is a supermost or suprememost, then Nivartante, you never come back to this material world. Translation. That which that Vedantas describe as manifest, unmanifest, infallible, which is known as Paramam Gati, that place from which having attained it one never returns, that is my supreme abode. And the puppet, Srila Prabhupada quotes Brahma Samhita, Chintamani, Prakrasatma Shukalpa Vriksha Lakshavrate Surabhi Abhipalayantam. Lakshmi Sahasrashasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Aham Bhajami. Like that, Lord Srila Prabhupada quotes a shloka over here. And then Prabhupada talks about higher to that is Vrindavan, Vaikuntha, and then Vrindavan is what Prabhupada writes in the puppet. So, we have lost good amount of time. Maybe I'll give this as a homework section for all of you to read. Or maybe I can just show it to you quickly. In second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and chapter number 9, there comes a very beautiful, let's see if I can, oops. Where is, yeah, just 1 second. If I do duplicate, and yeah, now you can see this. So second canto, you go to 9th chapter, and verse number, is it 20? 24. It is verse, it should be here only, 25. No, he had a darshan of the Lord. Yeah, the verse number 11 onwards. Okay, so 2.9, let me just check 9.9. Yeah, so this is where it starts from. So this is second canto, 9th chapter, verse number 9 up to verse number 15. There is a discussion about the spiritual world. I just briefly read out the translation and give you some clues. Please do read the puppet. So this is Brahmaji performing his tapasya in the morning time. Being pleased, Lord Vishnu appeared to him and gives him darshan of the Vaikuntha, the residents of Vaikuntha, and his darshan. This is the 9.9. The personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha. So Prabhupada would often raise a question, if Krishna is saying Tadhama Paramamama, is Krishna saying he has a home, he has an abode, how can he be impersonal? Because somebody is impersonal, cannot have an address. Just like sky. Can you give an address to sky? Sky is everywhere. So if Krishna is impersonal, which means he's all pervading. But when Krishna says, Tadhama Paramama, I also have an abode. In the previous chapters, we also saw, if you worship Devta, you go to the abode of Devta, you worship Pitra, you'll go to abode of Pitra. This will come in the 9th chapter also. So when Krishna is comparing, then Krishna again says, if you come to my abode, then you come and live with me. So that itself proves that Krishna has a form. So this transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons freed from all kind of miseries and fear of illusory existence. And then text number 10. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor is there an influence of goodness. Therefore, Krishna says Paramam, which means which is beyond the modes of material nature. What else is not there? There is no even predominance of Kala. It is Kala which actually creates fear. Yes? When you get up in the Monday morning, the very first thing you check is the clock. And if it is 7 o'clock, how many times you have said, oh, kash subah ke 5 baje hote main 2 ghanta aur so jata? How many have that experience? Yes or no? It is Kala that creates fear. So what to speak of the illusory externality? It cannot even enter that region. Without discrimination, both the demigods and demons worship the Lord as devotees. So it is beyond the modes of material nature, beyond the influence of Kala, and Prakriti has no influence. Text number 11. Now, what about the inhabitants of Vaikuntha? The inhabitants of Vaikuntha planets are described as having a glowing sky bluish complexion. Their eyes resemble lotus flower. Their dress is of yellowish color. The bodily features are very attractive. They're just the age of growing youths. They all have 4 hands, and they're all nicely decorated with pearl necklaces, with ornamental medallions, and they all appear to be effulgent. Please do read the purport. Prabhupada gives more details in the purport. So this is about how the residence of Vaikuntha looks like, then more about their ornaments. What do they wear on the body? Some of them are effulgent like coral and diamonds in complexion, and have garlands on their heads blooming like lotus flowers, and some wear earrings. What do they do? The Vaikuntha planet is also surrounded by various airplanes, all glowing and brilliantly situated. These airplanes belong to the great Mahatmas or devotees of the Lord. The ladies are as beautiful as lightning because they are celestial complexions, and all these combined together appear just like the sky decorated with both clouds and lightning. Why clouds and lightning? Because they are a contrasting color. Lightning is generally of, you can say, orange with a white color, and the cloud is a dark complexion. So the man is compared to have that complexion, and the lightning, the beauty of the lady is of the color of the lightning, like that. Then what about Mother Lakshmi? Text number 15. The goddess of fortune in transcendental form is engaged in the loving service of Lord's lotus feet, and being moved by the black bees, follows a spring. She is not only engaged in variegated pleasure, service to the Lord along with the constant companions, but is also engaged in singing the glories of the Lord's activities. Lord Brahma saw in the Vaikuntha planet the personality of Godhead, the Lord of the entire devotee community, the Lord of the goddess of fortune, the Lord of all sacrifices, the Lord of the universe, who is served by the foremost servitors like Nanda, Sananda, Prabhala, Rahana, and his immediate associates. Like this discussion continues. Second canto, chapter number 9, verse number 10 onwards up to verse number 18, you can read. So that's a discussion over there on this subject matter. Now let's come to text number 22. Purushaha sa paraparta bhaktya labhyastu ananya yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. Purushaha sa paraparta. Purusha means the Supreme Lord. Paraha means Supreme. Partha. Bhaktya labhyastu ananya. Now the question arises, how can we, attain the Supreme Personality Godhead? Bhaktya, by devotional service, labhyastu ananya. You can attain by the process of bhakti. What bhakti? Ananya, unalloyed. Yasyantaha sthani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. And when you're situated in bhakti, what will happen? You'll see him situated within and without of everything. Translation. Somebody would like to read the translation? Go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, go ahead, Mother.
Translation of 8.22. The Supreme
Yes.
Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all pervading and everything is situated within him. Hare Krishna.
Purport, read the second paragraph.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. To enter Krishna's supreme abode or the innumerable Vaikuntha planets is possible only by bhakti, devotional service, as clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain that supreme abode. The Vedas, Gopal Tapani Upanishad 3.2 also describe the supreme abode and the supreme personality of Godhead. Eko Vashi Sarvagha Krishnaha. In that abode, there is only one supreme personality of Godhead, whose name is Krishna. He is the supreme merciful deity, and although situated there as one, he has expanded himself into millions and millions of plenary expansions. The Vedas compare the Lord to a tree standing still, yet bearing many varieties of fruits, flowers, and changing leaves. The plenary expansions of the Lord who preside over the Vaikuntha planets are four-armed, and they are known by a variety of names. Purushottama, Trivikrama, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Rishikesha, Sankarshana, Pratyumna, Sridhara, Vasudeva, Damodara, Janardhana, Narayana, Vamana, Padmanabha, etc. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So like that, so from verse number 20 to 22 in 3 verses, Lord Shri Krishna gives a little prelude to his spiritual world. And what all is discussed here is always unmanifest, which is always eternal, and it is transcendental to this world. Then text number 21, Krishna says, and of course in 20 he says it is never annihilated, like this. And the nature of this world is described in text number 21. One who attains that never have to come back to this material world. And then we saw some verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, where it was said it is beyond the modes of material nature, no sattva raja tamagun. It's beyond the influence of karma, kal, and of course the karma is not there when kal is not there. Under the purview of time, when actions are performed, they are called as karma. So kal is not there. And then we also saw the beauty of the residence, etc. So now Arjuna would has a doubt in his mind that he would ask, or we'll see what Krishna says in the next section. Before that, in 17th verse of this chapter, Srila Prabhupada in the purport elaborately describes the time scale. How long is Brahma's day and his life? We'll just quickly take a look at that time scale. If I'm correct, we have discussed this in Ishopanishad. We'll be quick with this discussion, okay? And for those who are yet to attend Ishopanishad, don't worry. In your discussion, in your study, we'll discuss it elaborately nonetheless. Let me just get my PPT in place. Yes, it's over here. So, a time scale. Just to begin with, a little comparison of the Vedic understanding of time scale and that to the modern understanding of time scale. According to the modern understanding of time scale, which is largely based on Abrahamic understanding, which is Jewish or Christian understanding, according to them, time is linear. At one point in time, there was a creation, then there was an appearance of unicellular, then evolution of human being, that is called a Darwin's theory, creation of universe is Big Bang theory, and then appearance of unicellular organisms is their chance theory, evolution of human being is their Darwin's theory, and then devolution of life, destruction of universe, etc., etc. In fact, it is mentioned within the Christian faith that on 23rd September at 11 a.m., 6,004 years ago, creation happened. I have a simple question. What was happening on 23rd September at 10:55? If the creation happened at 11 o'clock. So, I mean, how can you have 11 o'clock as a time when there was no creation prior to that? Anyways, like that. However, what is the Vedic model? Vedic model is creation, maintenance, destruction. Creation, maintenance, and destruction. Very simple. There is a sunrise followed by sunset. There is a Monday followed by Tuesday. Rest of the week, again, Monday comes. January, February, March, and again January, February, March. The change of seasons, again cyclic. Everything in this creation, which is according to the nature, is always cyclical. You see the life cycle is also a cycle, interdependency like that. Similarly, this Vedic model, and in fact, Lord Shri Krishna himself speaks about reincarnation in the 2nd chapter, verse number 27, Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityu dhruvam janma amritasya cha. Whoever is born sure to die, who dies sure to take birth again. That's a little understanding of time scale. Now, what is Brahma's day? Quick, this thing, because this is very important actually to understand this time scales. So Kali Yuga, so there are 4 yugas, Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga. So Kali Yuga, let's compare it to K, the duration, which is 4,32,000 years. Then Dwapar Yuga is twice of Kali Yuga. Treta Yuga is thrice, and Satya Yuga is 4 times. Like that, the duration of one Mahayug, which comprises of Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali Yuga, becomes 4 plus 3, 7 plus 2 is 10. Mahayuga means 10 times of the age of Kali Yuga. That becomes 43 lakhs, 2,000 years, like that. 43 lakhs, whatever, 2,000 something, whatever year comes out to be, 10K. Now, then we have Manvantara. One Manu. In the day of Brahma, as Krishna is speaking about in 17th and 18th verse, in the day of Brahma, there are 1,000 such Mahayuga cycles. 1,000 Mahayuga cycles, and in one day of Brahma, 14 Manus that appear. So for each Manu, life's duration is of the span of 71 Mahayugas, like that. And then each manvantara is preceded by Sandhya Kal, like that. So the day of Brahma becomes the duration of the life of 14 manvantras plus 15 Sandhya Kal, a space between the change of one Manu to another Manu. Just like Dwapar Yuga to Kali Yuga, there is also Sandhya. So right now, according to Vedic calculation, Kali Yuga have not even started. We are in the Sandhya. From Dwapar to Kali Yuga is supposed to start like that. And this Sandhya has some mathematical calculation, 1 by 10 or 1 by 100, something like that, of the duration of that Yuga, like that. So like this turns out to be the day of Brahma is equal to 1000 cycles of Mahayugas. So the day of Brahma turns out to be 4.32 billion human years, like that. And finally, the calculation of one life of Brahma is 311 trillion of 40 billion years. So this slide would be shared. I would highly recommend you to do this calculation on your own, just to verify that. Then, age of Earth. Let's make some practical usage of this data that we have. So somebody may ask, what is the time of creation of this Earth? Like this. Time elapsed since Brahma's day started. So if you see, so right now it is mentioned in the scriptures. Now the science have their way of calculating the age. We have a far much easier way of calculating the age of this planet or the age of this universe, for that reason. Because at the end of Brahma's day, there is Pralaya. There's no planet Earth after that, which means planet Earth is reborn on the morning of Brahma. So since then, we'll have the age of Earth. So the age of Brahma is said to be, or let's put it this way, out of 14 Manus, 6 Manus have already passed. And we are on to the duration of the 7th Manu, like that. So 6 Manvantaras plus 27 Mahayuga. This whole calculation comes out to be, oh Baba, the number goes on, big number. So in other words, we are in the 51st year of Brahma, and of that 51st year, we are on the first day of Brahma's life. And in that Brahma's life, almost 6 Manus have actually lived their life. So what does it mean? It means age of Brahma is 50 years of Brahma plus age of the earth. That turns out to be the age of earth. Okay. So far, Brahma has lived around 155 trillion years, like that. That is the age of Brahma. So here, Krishna says in verse number 16, please take a look at 16. A Brahma Bhavana Loka. Even if you're born in Brahma Loka as Brahma, yet you have to take birth again. So Brahma's age is quite long. In such a way, you can say he lives eternity. You're talking 311 trillion years. So that is the age of Brahma. What is our age? Is not even a fraction of the fraction of the fraction. So insignificant. So there was a sage who lived, and something interesting happened. This is Lomaharsa Rishi, who had received a benediction that his one hair would fall in one day of Brahma, and he would die only when he will have all his hairs fallen down. So now, that's pretty a long life. So one day, some of his disciples, he was meditating on the bank of Ganges, and his disciple thought of constructing some shade to protect him from the scorching sun. And when he saw his disciples doing like that, he became very angry. While the disciples were busy, the sage opened his eyes and asked them not to waste the precious time on irrelevant things. According to him, life is very short and must be used in pursuit of spirituality. Many keh raha hu yahan, Lomaharsa Rishi, this is from Mahabharata, the one you cannot even calculate the life duration of his life. He's saying, whose one hair falls in the day of Brahma. He's saying, do not waste your time. Life is very short and everything should be used in pursuit of spirituality. So, how long is our life? Think about it. So, how insignificant we are, this is just a quick calculation about what we are. In 1 millisecond of Brahma, अपना जन्म भी हो गया, अपनी मृत्यु भी हो गई. इसलिए कहा जाता है, एक था राजा, एक थी रानी, दोनों मर गए, खत्म कहानी. This is probably based on this slide, like that. All right. So this was a discussion. We already spoke about 18, Brahma's day, Brahma's night. So Lord Shri Krishna says in text number 18, at the beginning of the day of Brahma, there's a creation. At the end of Brahma's night, there is destruction. So there are 4 types of annihilation, which is described in 12th canto, 4th chapter. Nitya Pralay, which means our birth and death. That is called Nitya Pralay. Then there is called as Naimatika Pralay. Naimatika Pralay, which happens at the end of Brahma's day. That is called as Naimatika Pralay. 1000 cycles of 4 ages, like that. This is Naimatika, annihilation. Then there is Prakritika Pralay. Prakritika Pralay happens at the end of Brahma's life. At the end of Brahma's life, Prakritika Pralay. And then there is one more Pralay that happens, and that is called as Atyantika Pralay. What is Atyantika Pralay? Which means when our material existence is completely annihilated, destroyed, which means particularly becoming free from false ego, and a person has attained mukti. He's going back home, back to Godhead. That is the final Pralay that we have to undergo in this world. Like this, there are 4 Pralay which are described in the scriptures. What is the description of spiritual world? Krishna's abode is non-different than him, is eternal, no birth and death, is infallible. Unlimited bliss, fulfillment of all desires, Chintamani Prakarasat Mushukal Praviksha, all attractive, unmanifest. Is unmanifest means you cannot see it by your mundane eyes. Then, in fact, so many things of this world we cannot see with mundane eyes. What to speak of seeing things which is beyond this world, spiritual world. Is Parastutasmat, transcendental, Param Dham, supreme destination, and as Krishna says, is a place of no return, like that has been described. This is what we have already discussed in 20, 21, and 22. So, comparison of material and spiritual world, the temporary and entirely composed of eternity. And these are some of the features I have already shown you, so I'll not go here like that. Okay, this slide got repeated. So now Arjuna thought, my dear Lord, what happens to the karmis and jnanis? And that brings us to the last section of this 8th chapter, where D stands for devotion. So bhakti yoga. Now this is very interesting subject matter again here. Now Krishna have already spoken to Arjuna about coming back to his home. Mam upetya punarjanma. Dukhalaya shashvatam. Krishna has very clearly made a point that, come and attain to my destination. Brahma, Bhuvana, Loka, top to bottom, there is a place of rebirth. So now here, Lord Shri Krishna should have concluded this discussion with Bhakti Yoga. But yet Lord Shri Krishna, will draw the conclusion at the last few verses for the next 5, 6 verses, in the next 5 verses, remaining verses. For the first 3, 4 verses, Krishna will speak about how if a person leaves his body during Uttarayana, then he attains to a higher destination. Again, Krishna is making a comparative study. So he presents how the karmis and jnanis attain the high destination, and then he'll say how bhaktas attain high destination, which is very easy. Why? For us, we cannot even control our hunger. We cannot control our sleep. We cannot control any other urges of the body. Can we control our life here from quitting the body? So the yogis have to practice such a way that they can control and restrain their life here and wait for the appropriate time, which is said to be Uttarayana, when the sun moves when sun changes its course and is towards the northern hemisphere, moving towards the northern hemisphere, and has to ensure to quit his body during the Uttarayana time. Who can control that? Who has the ability? So that's what becomes extremely difficult. In other words, in this section, Lord Shri Krishna says, yes, Arjuna, I know. I know not only about you, I know the future generation. Now, for all of us, we are living in the day and time when we are filled with so much temptations, allurements, and distractions. And in this day and time, when we have hardly any sense control, there is no question of we having any control on life here. So therefore, for us to make any advancement, or for us to have any hope of going home back to Godhead, there has to be a very, very powerful technique, which is extremely potent, yet extremely simple. And that is called as Bhakti Yoga. That is what Lord Shri Krishna proves here. And that is the discussion from verse number 23 onwards. How to attain the Supreme. So passing the world at the right time, is the discussion in verse number 23 to 26. And bhaktas are about the mechanical process is the discussion verse number 27 to 28. Like that happens. And then finally, devotional service compasses everything. So that's the discussion that we're going to take a look. But I'm just wondering, should we have a 5-minute break? Or the Medavani, what is the discussion? We need to have a break, right? Or we continue? What devotees want?
We need to have a break, Prabhu. That's what the poll
Yes.
results.
So 5-minute break is okay?
Yes, Prabhu.
So we can that way take up a discussion at 3 o'clock. So this is 2:07 in my clock, and we'll give you extra buffer. You can come back at 2:15. 3 minutes bonus time. All right. So we'll round it off. So at 2:15, we'll resume our discussion of the last part of Bhagavad Gita, of the chapter 8, sorry, and then we'll start with the 9th chapter. Very, very beautiful discussion. Hare Krishna. See you in 8 minutes.
वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादां सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितां हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे भज श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा भज श्री कृष्ण Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tang Sajivam
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Hare Krishna, welcome back after a quick short break. Let's continue with our discussion from the 24th verse onwards. Okay, 23rd verse onwards, let's say. Yatra kale tu navrittim chaiva yoginah Prayatayanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatashabha. Please read the translation. Somebody like to read the translation? Go ahead. Without Kishwarani, your hand is up. Go ahead, read it out.
O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world the yogi does or does not come back. Hare Krishna.
The first few lines of the purport.
The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hands and so easily and happily return to Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga must leave the body at a suitable time in order to be sure of whether or not they will return to the world of birth and death.
Next. So who
If
can
the-
select the time? Prabhupada writes, only if a yogi is perfect.
If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for leaving this material world. But if he is not so expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away and does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Baldev Vidyabhushana, the Sanskrit word
Kala used herein refers to the
Sanskrit word
presiding
kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time.
So any example comes to your mind where you know of any yogi who left his body? Yes, mother? Bhishma Pitamaha. Well, yeah, good. But he was a bhakti yogi. He didn't have to, but okay, he did. Any other example you know of where a person, he left his body on his own will? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yes, Mother Rati Manjari.
Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakura, he went into Samadhi.
Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about from the history. Where there's, in the Vedic text, it is written about the person. Any examples? An example? Sati Devi. Okay, Sati, Mata Sati, Lord Shiva's wife. Well, she definitely committed sati, but she didn't choose the circumstances. Nobody would like to quit in such a circumstance. Sanni Tanna, His Holiness, Gaur Govind Maharaj. Okay. I mean, you're talking about the pure devotees here. So one example that comes, Mother Chintamani, go ahead. Can you unmute yourself? Yes.
Dhruva Maharaj?
Dhruva Maharaj? No. He didn't have to quit the body itself. He went back home, back to God in the same self body. I'm talking to the yogi. Please understand, I'm a yogi. If a yogi is perfect, then he can select the time and situation for leaving this material world. But if he is not so expert, his success depends on accidentally passing away as a certain suitable time. For a devotee of the Lord, these all does not matter. But for a yogi, it matters. And for a yogi, he does that. One example. Yes, Mother Manisha.
Prabhuji, it's Dronacharya also.
Dronacharya, no, his neck was cut off. He went into a samadhi, his neck was cut off. Like that. Tukaramji, how Tukaramji? He was invited. He was invited to come to Vaikuntha. Again, he's a devotee. I'm going to give you an example which you're going to find, oh, really? And that is
Ramanujam.
How are you giving examples of pure devotees, Ray? I'm talking about yogi, not bhakti yogi, as Prabhu says. Dhritarashtra, you somewhere kind of caught my word. I was saying Dhritarashtra. What happened to Dhritarashtra? He went into the forest, Vidura took him away to the forest, and then he performed Ashtanga Yoga. And then on one particular suitable day and time, he ignited the fire element and burnt himself. And that fire, Mother Gandhari jumped. And then she passed away. So that is what is being discussed here in this situation like that. All right. So the first part of the purport is important. The devotees who are unalloyed, for them it really doesn't matter because they're anyways always remembering Krishna. So they don't have to worry about. Text number 24 now. Agni Jyotiraha Shuklaha Sanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vido Janaha. Sun Masa Uttarayanam. So most suitable time is Uttarayan. When the sun changes the direction, it was the northern hemisphere. And we just had Uttarayan. Somebody go ahead, read the translation. Mother Anjana, your hand is up. Please read. Those who would like to read, keep their hands up. I'll just call you up then. Yes. Unmute, mother.
Prabhu, Uttarayan means only one day or that totally 6 months?
That particular day is called Uttarayan because the sun have changed its course of direction now. And then from that until 6 months, Uttarayan, because the sun is moving towards the northern hemisphere. But that particular day is considered very auspicious. But you will read here in this 6 months, if a person passes, considered auspicious. But when Krishna or when the sun changes direction toward Dakshinayana, that is not considered auspicious. Like that. Yes, Madanjana, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of fairy god in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north.
Correct. Prabhupada writes in the middle of the purport, mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. Go ahead.
Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or arrangement.
All right.
Hare
Now the
Krishna.
discussion on those auspicious and inauspicious time mode, text number 25. Dhumaratre sata Krishnaha sanmasa dakshinayanam tatra chandramasham jyotir yogi prapya nivartate Mother Leela Nandini.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Lord Pranam. Translation and purport by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Purport also, Prabhuji?
Yes, small purport.
In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni mentions that those who are expert in fruitive activities and sacrificial methods on earth attain to the moon at death. These elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years by demigod calculations and enjoy life by drinking somarasa. They eventually return to earth. This means that on the moon, there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be perceived by the gross senses. Hare Krishna.
Text number 26. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world. One in light, one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. But when one passes in darkness, he returns. So same description of departure return is quoted by Baldev Vidyabhushan. Those who are fruitive laborers and philosophical speculators from time immemorial are constantly going and coming. Actually, they do not attain ultimate salvation, for they do not surrender to Krishna. Text number 27. Naite stri paratha janan yogi muhyati kashana tasma sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. Mother Chintamani, please read. Unmute yourself, please.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Dandavat.
Translation. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion.
So Prabhupada writes a very beautiful purport here. We'll read later in the 9th chapter, where Krishna, in the 9th chapter, he says, where's that verse number? Text number 22, the famous Shlok 9.22. Yoga Shemam Vahami Aham. For my devotee, I protect what he has and I provide what he lacks. In other words, I protect my devotee in all situations. So on that premises, Prabhupada writes this beautiful purport. For a devotee of the Lord who is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, he really doesn't have to worry about this prescriptions for that reason, because at all times remembering the Lord, and Lord has promised he will protect the devotees. With that, please read out the puppet now. Beautiful puppet. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you're there? Go ahead,
Yeah.
Madan.
Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in this service. And this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The word yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Srila Rupa Goswami advises, Anashaktasya Vishayan Yathartham Upayunjataha. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Text number 28. Vedeshu yagneshu tapasu suchaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tassarvam idam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chatyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. Please read the last paragraph of this purport. Yes, Anadi Anshuman Prabhu, go ahead. Unmute, yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
I will...
Last line of the first.
No, last paragraph.
Last paragraph. Okay.
One who has a little faith.
Yeah. One who has a little faith in Bhagavad Gita should learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter, it is stated clearly that Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore learn Bhagavad Gita from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and fortunately gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand Bhagavad Gita. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service. And this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God, and Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of Bhagavad Gita and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Golok Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy.
Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose to the 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of attaining the Supreme. So now the discussion would be on how to become that unalloyed devotee. Only then this makes sense. So that discussion is of chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. But here I have a question for all of you before we conclude our discussion. Here in this verse, it is mentioned, person who has taken to the path of bhakti is not bereft of the results derived from studying Vedas, performing yajna, austerities, giving charity, pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Just by doing bhakti, he attains all these. Similarly, Mother Devahuti in 3rd canto says, one who has taken to bhakti, one who's actually chanting the holy names of the Lord in his previous life, has performed all kind of tapasya, yajna, have taken bath in all the sacred rivers, etc., etc. So here is my question to all of you before we move on to the next discussion, and that is, where is my presentation? Yes, and here's a question. Because devotional service encompasses everything, does that mean we should not do anything else? No charity, no penance, no rituals, just do bhakti. Any thoughts on this? Yes, Madarati Manjari, what would you like to say?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We are not attained, I mean, I have not attained the pure devotional stage. So every activity has a reaction. So you need to counteract by the prescribed methods in the Bhagavad Gita and the other scriptures. That is, charity is a must, penance is a must, rituals have to be followed by a sadhaka. That's
Yeah, good. But what rituals to be followed?
rituals is the morning sadhana program, and the morning sadhana is our ritual.
Yeah, that's our bhakti. Anyways, you're chanting, that's part of bhakti.
Visiting dham yatras or
Okay, so the long answer short, what it means, what we follow everything that is within the paradigm of bhakti. If it is charity, yes, we give charity. We give charity for the purpose of propagation of Krishna consciousness. We perform penance and austerity, waking up early in the morning. In Kartik Mass, we all take vows or some vows of chanting 32 rounds, 48 rounds, etc., etc. So like this, which helps us to progress in bhakti, we perform. We don't say because we are doing bhakti, now we don't need to do anything. Let me finish my goddamn 16 rounds. And I'm so liberated. 4 rounds in the morning, 4 rounds before lunch, 4 rounds before dinner. I've already covered my milestone of 12 rounds per day. And the last 4 rounds before the beginning of the next day, before midnight. Nitai Gaur Haribol. Krishna, don't expect more. Don't say ye dil mange more. I can only give you this much, 16 rounds. And I'm going back home, back to Godhead. No, it's not like that. So we do all these practices which are under the garb, or which under the practice are prescribed under the bhakti principle. So that's what is an answer for that. Let's come to the chapter 9. Before we go to chapter 9, I saw some questions on the chat. If those devotees want to read out their questions themselves, you please go ahead. If you're too shy to read out, then I can read out. Please let me know what you would like me to do. In the meantime, I'll open the chapter 9 presentation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes. So, question we can take directly. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Prabhu is speaking.
Yeah, this is Harinam Krishnadas. So,
Harinam Prabhu, yes.
So normally we hear like devotees living on auspicious days like Ekadashi and Brahma Murta time have some significance attached to it. Like, so how does that statement needs to be understood? Like,
yeah, this is something hearsay. We say so many things. Where does it say it in the scripture like that? Because here what we are reading is the time and situation does not matter. Of course, if in case it just so happened to be an auspicious day and we passed away, wonderful. That does not guarantee because somebody passed on an auspicious day is going home back to Godhead. You know, the principle of antakale chamameva smanutva kalevaram holds true. For example, let's take a case of our Prabhu ka, whose photo is there in front of the Rath Yatra always?
Jayananda Prabhu.
Jayanand Prabhu, right? Jayanand Prabhu? Not Jayanand Prabhu. I'm just skipping the name. You all know or not? Come on, fellows. You attend so many Rath Yatras, don't know the name of the devotee whose photo is always up on the Rath Yatra?
Goswami Prabhu.
Huh? It's Jayanand Prabhu only. Jayanand, not Jananand. Jayanand Prabhu, yes. Jayanand Prabhu, for example, when he parted away, what did Srila Prabhupada said? You know, he has done everything. You should read the response of Srila Prabhupada after departure, Jayanand Prabhu. You know, that will give you, when I read it, like Prabhupada said, Krishna would have taken it to the most suitable situation, like that. It wasn't that Prabhupada said, okay, Janand Prabhu has gone back home, back to God. We can draw an inference out of it. I'm not saying he has not gone. That's not my point here. I'm just saying what Prabhupada wrote in the letter, like that. So what I intend to say is, when it is said Antakale Chamameva Sarmukta Kalevaram, that counts what we remember. And on the auspicious day, it is more favorable for us to remember Krishna. That can hold true. But apart from that, going to Vaikuntha, I don't know. Auspicious day may be like a favorable breeze, but if somebody passes on another day, for a devotee, it will not affect still, nonetheless. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Prasad Prabhu, you had something? Okay. Anadi Anshuman Prabhu, you have your hand up? Let me go
Yes,
with that.
Prabhuji. So the question was related to this only, Prabhuji, that in the start of the chapter, we learned the principle of Antakalicha Mamesmaran. So like if one remembers, only then he will be able to go back to Godhead. But in the end of the chapter, we learned that, okay, if one happens to pass away on a auspicious moment or on a auspicious day, then there is a possibility of that person going back, even though he or she might not be a devotee. So doesn't
No. It's not
Yeah.
about going back home. It's mukti. They're not going to Vaikuntha. Then going, okay, here let me just make this point, which I wanted to speak in the beginning. So if you see until now, from the 7th to the 8th chapter, Krishna has spoken about 4 levels of devotees. Karma Mishra Bhaktas, Jnana Mishra, Yoga Mishra, and Bhakti Yogis. Karma Mishra Bhaktas were described as Arthathati Jigyasu. Jnana Mishra Bhaktas were Jnani. Yoga Mishra Bhaktas from 9th chapter of this 9th verse of this chapter to 13th verse. And after that comes the discussion about the pure devotee. So what is the destination, that maximum destination the Karma Mishra Bhaktas can attain is they can go, maximum is being said. This is Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writes in his commentary. The maximum destination that they can attain is of, Salokya. In other words, they can be on the same planet with the Lord. What about Jnana Mishra? The maximum destination that they can attain is of Shantaras. So these are the practitioners, those who become the trees, the creepers, and the grass in the spiritual world. For Yoga Mishra Bhakta is still pending for me to look into it. And for Bhaktas, it is mentioned, they go and engage with the Lord in various rasas, according to the mood the devotee has cultivated. And for that it is said, who's unalloyed devotional service. Therefore, the 9th chapter comes, how to cultivate the unalloyed devotional service, or how to perform unalloyed devotional service. That is a discussion in the 9th chapter. So those who are karmis and jnanis, with that, this is the maximum destination that they can get. At least mukti. If they are so advanced, mystic, which they have control on their life here, then they can get Brahman realization. Vaikuntha planet, all that, no. Even for a devotee, in fact, Vaikuntha, a devotee can go, but nobody can go to Goloka Vrindavan. Only if you can go to Goloka Vrindavan, if you have cultivated the mood of the residents of Goloka Vrindavan, which means you have accepted any of the Brajavasis as your leader and have followed into the footsteps of that leader. This is what Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So going to Vrindavan is the most difficult. Vaikuntha still devotee can go remembering or being remembered, or being helped other devotees to remember Krishna at the end of life. They can still go to Vaikuntha, but going to Vrindavan is not like that. So these are some of the things which this mention, it looks like, from this chapter and what Acharya says. Yes, Anadi Anshuman Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. So this was for karmis, jnanis, and yogis, right? And if it's a kind of normal person who is not either of these as well, then
he's abnormal.
Sorry.
Then he's abnormal.
Yeah. So if it's an abnormal person, a normal person, like a person who is neither of these, and he happens to leave his body on auspicious occasion, right? So then what's the destination that's recommended?
See, yam vapi sparan bhavam. Please understand, the time, it just helps you to have a favorable recollection. Therefore, I said it is a favorable breeze. Now, when it's on the day of Ekadashi you're passing away, What's supposed to happen Ekadashi day? The more chanting. So that becomes a favorable breeze. So when parting away, you might hear the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, so you may remember. But today, what is auspicious and inauspicious? If you're outside the temple, does it look like Ekadashi environment? So even if it is an Ekadashi day, how does it help? But the principle of attaining the next destination depends on what you remember at the end of life. Everything else is a favorable, unfavorable situation. But the principle that decides your next life is what you remember. And what you remember is how you have cultivated your thought process all through the life. And your cultivation of thought process depends on what actions did you perform. That means karma. And that is what results into what you remember at the end of life. So don't confuse that. The principle is what you remember is what you get in the next life. An example is Bharat Maharaj. When Bharat Maharaj became a deer, there is no discussion about favorable, unfavorable time and all that. He remembered deer, he became deer. That's just simple. And we discussed case study of Ratnavali. That's it. All these things are some favorable environment which may help you, but does not guarantee. Now, for a mystic, when it is mentioned, which means a mystic is self-control, who's able to control his life for a year, can't he control his mind then? With a one-pointed attention, and then in being samadhi, he quits his body. Of course, he's going to go with such a level of advancement. Yes, Venuvardhan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, there are so many material universes, and each material universe is having Brahma. So this is Vyakta and Avyakta, that is manifest and unmanifest. Because of this day of Brahma, it is Vyakta, and night it is Avyakta. So this all the soul sort of whatever it is there, it will be merged in the Vishnu. So where it will go, Prabhu? Just it is merging in the Vishnu, and then it again it will manifest. How it will be?
Yeah, so they merges into Garbhodaksha Vishnu.
Yeah, so it will come back.
Yes,
so
the next morning happens. So again, Karmana Deva Naitrena. When they went back into Garbhodaksha Vishnu, whatever desires they had cultivated or they longed for, and based on their karmic activities, they when the next day begins, at that time they'll be provided that particular body where they can fulfill their pending list of desires.
Yes, sir. That is my question is whether it will go to the same material universe or some other material universe.
No, same, because your Garbhodaksha Vishnu is different Garbhodaksha Vishnu for different universes, na?
So Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu, it is only each material universe, it is
Garbhodaksha.
Garbhodaka.
Yes.
So my question, another question is, in that case, because of Kali Yuga is there, that soul is there in Kali Yuga. So next it is coming Satya Yuga. So because of that that cycle of these yugas, in the Kali Yuga, that soul or whatever it is there, it is undergoing so many so many bad things and other things. How you will get the qualification to enter into
this is injustice. You Kali Yuga Prani, you rascal, you did so many nonsense things. Now you end up coming in Satyuga.
Yeah.
So that's your question, right? No, it doesn't happen like this. See, please understand. One thing you say material universe, and then suddenly you jump over the Prithvi, Bharatvarsh. First of all, when you read the 5th canto, you'll understand this whole cycle, culture, or system happens only in Karma Bhumi, that is Bharatvarsh. That does not happen all across the Brahmand. Indradev or in Swarga, there is nothing called as Kali Yuga or Satyaloka. So do you think when Kali Yuga is going on, the Indraloka is also undergoing Kali Yuga? No, this cycle of Kali Yuga, Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali Yuga only happens in Karma Bhumi. And Bharat Varsha, among the 9 Varshas, is the Karma Bhumi. All other Varshas are Satya Yuga forever. So only in this Bharatvarsha you have the cycle of Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali Yuga. And it is in this Bharatvarsh, it is called as Karma Bhumi. What karma you perform here, according to that, you get next destination. Therefore, you will read in 3rd canto also, why this Bharatvarsha is so much glorified. Because this is the Bharatvarsha where you can perform any action according to that, you can choose your destination. When you go to other places, based on what you have done, you just go and enjoy the results of that in that place. There is no suffering unless you go to the lower planetary systems. Even lower planetary system only there is enjoyment. Unless you go to hell, there you get punished. Otherwise, lower planetary system has an enjoyment far greater than the Swarga. And there is no even fear also. Why there is no fear in the Patal Lok, the lower planetary system? Because there is no sunlight. It is a sunlight that gives us an indication of change of time. When there's no sunlight, they don't even have a fear that one day of my life has gone over. So the lower planetary pleasure system, the lower planetary system's pleasure is said to be far greater than the heavenly planets. There is only one place in this creation where all of us are so fortunate. God knows what all good karma we would have done in our previous lives, or whatever cycle of karma we have finished, that we have taken a birth in the Bharat Varsha. And now our course of actions here has such an impact on our next destination. And we can just go. For example, somebody takes birth in Swargaloka. Why Swargaloka is not so much glorified, or for the devotees to go to Swargaloka? Because once you go there, there is so much opulences and enjoyment. You'll be so much content with Somaras. You'll not be bothered about anything. A little perverted reflection of Somaras is bagpiper or whatever whiskey, beer people drink here. Just having a little perverted reflection of that, they forget their miseries in this world. Imagine who's drinking Soma juice 3 times a day. What would he remember? So Bharatvarsh is being glorified. Third canto glorifies Bharatvarsh. How important is the place those who've taken a birth? It's very rare birth because it's such a small portion of this whole material universe. And those who take birth here, this is where you can really change your destination forever. All right, Vinodhan Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Mother Chintamani?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have 2 questions. One is in the Arto Jigyasu Artati, the distress. Now, we have seen even in the devotee circle, when somebody falls sick or something, we keep on asking everybody to pray to the Lord to save the person or whatever it is. So does that also come under Arto?
No, we have discussed that already in the definition of pure devotional service. Anya Bhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavrit, and where we had discussed the example of Draupadi. When Draupadi's life was in danger, more than her life, and her chastity was under threat with the Shasana, what did she do? She raised her hand, Govinda, Gopala, Madhusudana, Madhava, save me, save me. And there's a whole discussion about her action. Did Draupadi asking for help from the Lord in the case of an emergency, does it fall under pure devotional service or not? And the Acharya says it falls under pure devotional service. Why? Because the devotee does not take shelter of anyone else. And when you're under fear, who else would you take shelter? You take shelter of Krishna. So that's pure devotional service. So that is an exception condition. Now, it's not that every day you get up in the morning, you say, Krishna, Krishna, all right, I'll finish my 16 hours, and now you bring me bhoga or bring me prasadam. It's not like that. It's a very rare situation of crisis. And I mean, if you don't take shelter of your beloved, who would you take shelter? But naturally remember the beloved. For Draupadi, calling out the names of the Krishna, but was very natural. It's not that something she had to think about it. So that's the point about it. Now, in case of as a practicing sadhakas, when somebody's health is down, we're asking, please pray to the Lord, my dear Vaishnavas, for the well-being of my child. It's not against the principles of bhakti. You're requesting, can you please pray to the Lord? Why? Because if the devotee is hale and healthy, there is so much for him or she to contribute in the mission of Srila Prabhupada. So that's okay, because you're thinking of engaging the devotee, the child in the devotional service and making, spreading the glories of Srila Prabhupada. That's totally fine that way. All right?
Yes, Prabhu. Another question I had is, apart from departing on days like Ekadashi and all, most of us have the conception that if we depart in a pilgrimage place like Vrindavan Dham or something, we go back to Godhead. So what is the take on that?
I mean, see, unless there is a scriptural statement, what I can draw is inferences, interpretations. And my interpretations or inferences may differ from the other devotees' inference interpretation. If there is a straightforward Shastric statement, then we can say this is what Shastra says, so be it. So, somebody passing away in Vrindavan. Now, where did Kamsa passed away?
Mathura.
Is it part of Brajamandal?
Yeah.
Where do you expect him to go now? And he's personally killed by Krishna. So again, when you say the time and the situation, that can act as a favorable breeze, but the principle still holds the true. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajanti ante kalam. Whatever you remember at the end of life, that is what's going to happen next. So all that is favorable. So somebody says, passing away in Vrindavan is so auspicious. It's auspicious because there is always chanting going around. You don't even have to arrange for it. Secondly, you are in Vrindavan Dham, so you feel that vibration of being in Vrindavan Dham. You yourself feel I'm in Vrindavan, so that creates a favorable situation for yourself. So this is just to create a favorable situation to remember Krishna. But not that you have passed away in the Dham, and you go back home, back to Godhead. I would say it's more of a sentimental statement than a Shastric statement. This is my understanding. It's good to glorify Dham in that way, but is that the absolute truth? Then it has to be a Shastric statement. Okay, Mother?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank
Nitai
you.
Pran Prabhu.
Anvatanam Prabhu. Prabhu, my question is in continuation to what Venuvardhan Prabhu has asked. So he said, so where you mentioned that after the end of the cycle, when the soul goes and merged to the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So is my assumption correct? Because the soul is going to come back as soon as the next yuga start. So is my assumption correct?
Next day.
Yeah, next day. So now they have to come back. So that means they've been going and merging with their subtle body, not just as a soul?
No, subtle body. Subtle body is there. You only get free from subtle body when you're going back home, back to Godhead. Otherwise, where is the question of desires? Mind is a storehouse of desires.
That's true. Okay. Fine. And one more question, Prabhu. So you said that this this happens only for the Earth planet, yeah? This destruction.
Yes.
And
Fifth canto talks about it. Karma Bhumi.
But then at the end of the Brahma's day,
correct.
So does that the whole planetary system which comes
Yes.
under the Brahma, they
Yes.
all?
Yes. And a simple example to remember, I often say, not to get confused, a very simple way is, just like you have this lotus, it blooms in the daytime, and the nighttime it shrinks. When it shrinks, it doesn't that it's part of the lotus shrinks. It shrinks entirely. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
And that is how everyone goes under the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And then again, लोटस फिर खिलता है. लोग उम्मीद लगा के बैठे हैं 2024 में एक बार फिर लोटस खिलेगा. I'm just joking. All right. Where is mother? She's not here today?
No, she has gone for the DT dressing service.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes. Mother Satya, whenever I see your name, I remember absolute truth.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Prabhu, maybe this is a very common question that I'm about to ask, but I would like to get your insights on this, Prabhu. So, if we are all belong to Krishna and we have always been with him, so why are we here? And Krishna says you never come back. So, how are we here? So, please.
I will repeat the GBC resolution. What the GBC's take and the resolution is, we fell from the spiritual world because we envied Krishna. We wanted to become Krishna. And therefore Krishna said, all right, become Krishna. Go to the material world. And we are here. Now we are here. And now Krishna says, when you go back, you never come back. When Krishna says, once you go back, you never come back, which means you have come from somewhere. Right? That's the reason there is a question of going back, right? So we do not belong to material world forever. This is confirmed. because we have come back from somewhere. That's the reason we're here. That's the reason when you go back, you do not come back again. So Prabhupada said in this line, why will not come back again when Krishna says so? It means because we have undergone the suffering in this world for so long, now we have learned our lesson. दूध का जला छाछ भी फूक फूक कर पीता है. So something like that. So now you're not going to commit the mistake. You're not going to commit the mistake of coming back. You have learned the lesson like that. Different acharyas have different understanding or explanation of that. But we'll just stick to what is, what is being discussed on this line. All right. That's the point of it.
Yes, Prabhu. So, but is there a possibility, like even after going back, one will desire to or be envious of Krishna?
I would not believe so. I would. The reason only I would say because Krishna says Yat Katvana Nivartante.
So you
See,
mean to say
okay, let me get to the crux of this whole problem. Why this thought arises, which is a very natural thought. This thought arises because of a fear. The fear is, I have already come once. Why I can't come again? Jiva Goswami in this regard says, we never came back from spiritual world. We came from Brahman. Because if we were ever in the spiritual world, we would not come back. So Jiva Goswami's take is, we were in Brahman, and that's the place where we fell. And the Brahman is a place from where anyone can fall anytime. And Prabhupada speaks about it, you can fall on from Brahman anytime. Because there is only Sat, but there is no Ananda. So from there it is. Prabhupada have made statements on both the sides, but after a long study and debate of it, the conclusion was drawn that we have come from the spiritual world. See, Brahman is also not part of material world in that sense. We come from the spiritual world and we have learned our mistake. We go back, we don't. So fine, either way, just chant Hare Krishna, be happy. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, when you're drowning, you don't ask, Mujhe dhakka kisne mara? Main kyo kuda? And when you're surrounded by crocodiles, when you're drowning in the ocean, you catch the hand of the helping man who wants to bring you onto the boat. Get onto the boat, cross the ocean, फिर जाके जितना लड़ना हो भगवान से क्यों भेजा मुझे, दोबारा तो नहीं भेजोगे. उसके बाद you can discuss. All right, this is a tricky question actually, has different opinions on this subject matter. But as Prabhupada emphasized, or as our GBC resolution is on this, like consider in that way, so we cannot repeat in that sense. This is what the understanding. I don't think so I have the capacity to really understand the fact on it. Krishna says we don't come back. How we came here, that is not very explicitly mentioned. So they're bound to have difference of opinions, and that's okay. That's okay. All right.
Yeah, thanks, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
This is something which is asked so much while preaching, Prabhu. So it's not very clear what to express as well to others.
When if it is being asked by a layman, this is what I would suggest you to say. For your understanding, if it is something that I said, we just accept what has been coming down the line. And this is the response which is given to us. And if you want to philosophically understand, and if you read Acharya's commentary, there are little difference of opinions, fine, on the subject matter. And when you have to say to the new person, generally the answer in this regard is, see, what is not so important how we came here. What is more important is, how soon can I go back? And the example to help us understand is just what I quoted. It's Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when you're drowning, you're surrounded by crocodile, and we're about to die and we're suffering, that time a boatman comes and gives you a hand. First you get onto the boat, then ask a question, which means first you come inside, which means first you try to understand the subject matter. Don't put your head onto the subject matter. Try to understand the other subject matter which you can comprehend right now. Yeah. That makes sense to you. Then try to understand which is more difficult for you to comprehend right now. And once you understand, once you're onto the boat, then it's okay. Which means once you come to the chanting and all that, after that, most of the time, it really doesn't matter this question. You are into it, okay, fine, ab aage. Because you're happy with Krishna consciousness, because you see Krishna consciousness working. And then we don't get too much trouble with this philosophical confusion, which is there a little bit. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
There are 3 hands up, or the devotees are not lower than hand. Mother Kishore Rani, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We were discussing about the pure devotees when they leave their bodies, or at what time is not important because they are pure devotees and they will go back to Godhead. Now, Bhishma Dev was a pure devotee. So, was it necessary for him to wait for Uttarayan to leave his body?
No, he didn't wait for Uttarayan. He was waiting for Krishna. That was just an external thing. He was waiting for Krishna to appear there, and Krishna wanted Bhishma Pitama to instruct Yudhishthira. So when you read Bhagavatam, you see that Bhishma Pitama had concluded his teachings to Yudhishthira Maharaj, which went around for a month, as we see according to Mahabharata. And then Bhishma Pitama began to eulogize Lord Shri Krishna. And coincidentally, the change of course happened, and then Uttarayan happened. When Uttarayan happened, then he took the opportunity while going for Lord Shri Krishna, he passed away. He closed his eyes. If, for instance, Uttarayan was 2 months later, then he would have closed his eyes then and there also. But because the question answer between Yudhishthira and Bhishma went for 1 month. See, who was asking question? Yudhishthira. Now somebody is asking a question, you cannot dictate that. If let's say I have to ask a question to you, then I can decide how much question to ask or not because I have somewhere to go. If Bhishma Pitama was asking Yudhishthira Maharaj a question, then Bhishma Pitama had a choice to decide for how long question to ask. But here Yudhishthira Maharaj came to ask him, and the question answer went on for 1 month. When Yudhishthira Maharaj was fully satisfied and educated in the subject matter he wanted, then Bhishma Pitama started glorifying Lord Shri Krishna. Coincidentally, it just so happened that the whole discussion just ended around Uttarayana. And then when the day come, he was, as we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, while glorifying Krishna. See, if he was answering Yudhishthira's questions, and then Uttarayan would have come, and then suddenly he would have stopped answering question and disappeared, then he will say he was waiting for Uttarayana. But it's more of a coincidence, if you see from this perspective, that he finished his conversation with Yudhishthira, he began to glorify Krishna, and then Uttarayana came and he closed his eyes. Now, I mean, of course, Bhishma Pitama is all Jnani and all that, no doubt about it, all 100%. But how do you still know that sun have changed its course of movement? I mean, there could be a way, but I'm just raising a point here. How would you know? Let's say you're taking a sun bath in the lawn. While taking a sun bath in the lawn, would you looking at the sun, you will understand it is Uttarayana now? Nowhere it is mentioned. Some yogi came and told Bhishma Pitama, Uttarayan ho gaya, chalo bhaiya, time khatam, time to go. There's no discussion like that. So I would say this is more of a coincidence rather than a planned way. That's my understanding on that. All right, Mother?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
All right. Any other questions from anyone? Nitai Pran Prabhu, please go ahead. Yes.
Yes, Prabhu, one more question. So since Mataji has asked about the passing away of Bhishma Pitama, which is today, actually, Bhishma Ashtami is today. So
today?
Yeah, in UK is today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah, so
it should have been on the Uttarayana day. But nonetheless, go ahead.
So Bhishma Panchak is also one such thing which happens at the end of the Kartik month.
Out of syllabus. I also don't know about that.
Yeah. So this has always been quite confusing to me because I've heard that that's also a time when actually Bhishma Pitama left his body.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I want to do some research. So therefore I said it's out of syllabus now. I don't know. I'm also confused about it. I have to do some proper research on this about Bhishma Panchak. I just did not look much into Bhishma Panchak because, we generally, Prabhupada did not highly recommend Bhishma Panchak practice. All that what devotees do in Bhishma Panchak. So my focus largely had been on the Kartik, the core component of Kartik. So I never got into the consciousness Bhishma Panchak is there. So I never much delved into the subject matter. What exactly is Bhishma Panchak? But I've heard here and there people say this is the time when Bhishma Pitama passed away and all that. But that's not the fact. What's the fact? I don't know. Again, unless it is very clearly written somewhere in scripture, it becomes very difficult to say what is right, what is wrong. Now it's about Bhishma Panchak. If that is the same thing mentioned in Bhishma Panchak, have you read somewhere some quotation, some Shastri quotation, Skanda Puran, Padma Puran, somewhere it said Bhishma passed away? If that is there, then we can say Kalpabhed. It is probably some different yuga in the appearance of Bhishma Pitama. So Uttarayan, it is said, Uttarayan, Srimad Bhagavatam also mentions that, passed away on the morning of Uttarayan. So that's there in Bhagavatam. So that's how we can understand it. But for both the things to happen together is not possible. That's just not possible for the same Bhishma Pitama to pass away in Uttarayan and also have a Bhishma Panchak, which is in Kartik. Like that. So if there is a Shastra statement, then the next obvious way to understand this is a Kalpabhed, which is on the different Mahayuga, different Yuga cycle when Bhishma had appeared. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Because what happens now, we as a devotees have access to wide varieties of literatures. And if those literatures we read at times, and if not a very comprehensive understanding of the subject matter, we can just pick a point and say, oh, Bhishma Panchak is the departure of Bhishma. But if you're making a statement, then you should reconcile also. What is Uttarayana? And there should be a proper article on it describing what Bhishma Panchak and what's about Uttarayana. So somebody is saying, which means there must be some statement somewhere, no doubt about it. But this would be with the Kalpabhed thing that I can understand. Okay, Prabhu? We have some more hands up. So this is 3:7. Officially our class ends at 3. And chapter 9, which I thought I'll start today, would happen probably next week now. So we can take some questions in case somebody has to go. You may leave. I will not take the screenshot now and mark you absent if I don't see you. I've already taken screenshot 2-3 times in between when some of your cameras were off. So we'll let you know whose attendance will be marked absent today. All right. Yes, Mother Rati Manjari.
Prabhuji, it's written that Bhishma Panchak, grandfather Bhishma fasted for these 5 days preparing to give up his life. And in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it is said that if one is capable, one should observe fasting from certain foodstuffs on the Bhishma Panchak for the pleasure of the Lord.
Perfect. So Bhishma Panchak is not about departure of Bhishma. Bhishma Panchak refers to fasting by Bhishma to celebrate the Kartik Mass, the vows of Kartik. That is what that reconciles the whole equation here. Thank you, Madhu.
Prabhuji, but then another question that comes associated with this is that the Gita Jayanti comes after Bhishma Panchak, right? And so Lord delivered Bhagavad Gita on Gita Jayanti, and then for 18 days the war happened. And ideally, Bhishma Dev should have been kind of put on the arrow of beds after that. And so how come Bhishma Panchak happens before Gita Jayanti? And
yes, Hari Bhakti Vilas reference, Mother Rati Manjari would answer that. She is saying Bhishma Pitama fasted before Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Let her answer now. Mother, you're on the spotlight. Question to you. You can give an answer. Please go ahead.
Prabhuji, the Gita Jayanti and these are all timelines which cannot be predicted exactly. But the purpose of Bhishma Panchak was given that Lord Bhishma, when Bhishma Pitama fasted for those 5 days to prepare for his death.
See,
our
calculation is according to Tithi. So our calculation is accurate. It is not that cannot be calculated. Ram Navami is accurately on the day when Lord Ram appeared because based on the constellation movement. And that is how you determine Tithi. So Gita Jayanti is Gita Jayanti. It is on the day.
But it was spoken only for 45 minutes, no, Prabhuji?
It was spoken before or after Bhishma Pitama fell down? Because Bhishma Pitama fasted before going to battle or after lying on the bed of arrows?
That I'll have to check, Prabhuji. That thing is not written there.
Hare Krishna. All right. So regarding Bhagavad Gita, there is a little lack of clarity also on this. When was exactly it was spoken? Different acharyas have different take on it. Was it spoken? So what we say for the sake of make it just simple, that it was spoken at the beginning, like that, of the Bhagavad Gita. Now some say it was spoken, well, anyways, but it makes most sense to go with an understanding that it was spoken at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, like that. See, Bhagavad Gita does not say it was spoken on the very first day. Bhagavad Gita chapter 1 begins with the beginning of the day of battle on that particular day. The conches were blown. Conches were blown every morning. So how do you say it was the first morning? And Dhritarashtra asking, what did my sons do on the battlefield? Which means it could say on the fifth day, he's asking, how have my sons prepared for the war today? So Mahabharat, when I read in Mahabharat, this discussion comes right after this thing. According to the flow of Mahabharat, it is like the very first day. So that's the thing about Gita Jayanti, which means spoken. And after that is largely believed that Bhishma Pitamaha on the 10th day fell and all that 1 month thing happened, etc., etc. Now regarding this whole Bhishma Panchak, which again is my inference based on what we heard some comments, which means it should be, ideally looks like something Bhishma would be fasting on the Kartik month prior to falling on the bed of arrows. This is inference. I'm not making an absolute statement. This is an inference like that. Fine. Anyways, वो तो हो गया, उन्होंने जो करा था, अपने को करना नहीं करना, अब ये बात करो. So जिसने भीष्म पंचक के ऊपर क्वेश्चन उठाया, मैं उनका फॉलो अप करने वाला हूँ भीष्म पंचक में. हाँ, कि भीष्म पंचक कर रहे नहीं कर रहे हो. ठीक है. हाँ, निताई प्राणपुर, you ask a question, I'm going to do a follow with you. Following Bhishma, I'll call up Mother Taruni and make sure, tell her not to cook for you for the next 5 days, whenever the Kartik starts. All right, anything else? Okay, so we close here for today. Thank you all for your kind participation. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.